Welcome, folks, to another episode of the Bible Show. My name is Sam. Joining me is Will, and we're continuing our series in the book of Genesis. And today we get to Jacob's homecoming. He's coming in, and he's going to meet somebody who the last he heard wanted to kill him.
Nice.
Which is his brother Esau. And so just kind of to set this up, how would you describe Jacob's last 20 years?
Deception.
A lot of deception.
Stealing everything from his brother. Leaving home. More deception.
Pretty much. So
dysfunction, chaos.
And that's the hallmark of Jacob's life, and everybody around him is insecure. So like let's walk through this real quick because it's kind of important if you haven't been with us so far. Jacob is born, and he's the second son, and his older brother Esau is the firstborn, and he's supposed to get the blessing because remember, the promise of salvation of the world has come to Abraham, and God has said to Abraham, through your seed, all the nations of the earth are going to be blessed. And so this begins the first time in the scriptures where God comes and says, the Savior of the world, the one who's going to crush the head of the snakes, coming through you, Abraham. Mm-hmm. And then when Abraham has children, it's like, oh, which one's it going to be? Well, it's Isaac. And then Isaac has twins, and God comes to Rebekah, his wife, and says, the older's going to serve the younger. And so that means the second-born should get the blessing, but Isaac's like, well, I don't like the second-born. Like, my favorite is the firstborn. I like Esau. He's the one who does the stuff I want. Jacob is like, he's a supplanter. He's a schemer. And so Rebekah schemes along with her son Jacob, and it's like, hey, we're going to pretend like you're Esau. We're going to dress you up. We're going to put hair on your hands and your neck. We're gonna clothe you in his smelly clothing. We're going to cook a meal that is like his. Your dad's blind, so just go in there and pretend like you're Esau, and your dad will give you the blessing so that the line of salvation comes through you, just like God told me, because Isaac's not listening to me, apparently. And Jacob does that. And Isaac's shocked when he finds this out. Like, he's deceived. And then Esau comes in and is like, I'm getting the blessing. You know, I'm getting all the stuff, right? And
Nope.
Isaac's like, I just gave it to someone else. Who was that? And they figure out it's Jacob. And what's Esau's response?
I'm going to kill you.
I'm going to kill him.
And he has the ability to do that because he is a hunter.
He's a hunter. He's kind of a ferocious guy. He's known for this. But what's the thing? What's the big difference between Esau and Jacob? Which one of them is the moral character? Which one of them is immoral? How would you define them?
Esau's moral, but doesn't care much for the promise of what he wants.
Yeah, he seems like the more moral. Like, more often than not, he's the obedient one.
He hasn't cheated anybody of anything that I know.
Yeah, like in the story where the deception happens, you know, Isaac is ignoring the promise of God. Rebekah's scheming to lie to her husband. Jacob is going along with the deception. And then you have Esau, who's just doing what his father asked him to. And you're like, wait a minute. Like, you feel sympathy for him in some sense. But he hates God. We're told he despises his birthright. He doesn't like being in this family and everything that means. He's not interested in the blessing of God for the kingdom of God's sake. He's interested in what can help Esau. Yeah. Like, give me the things that are going to make me successful, right? But outside of that, he's not interested in the things of God. Jacob will do anything to get blessing and advantage, including from God. So he runs off. He goes to the distant country. He's going to pick up a couple of wives and a couple of maidservants as wives, and he's going to have 11 children. And by the time he leaves his father-in-law, who was also a schemer, Jacob has amassed an immense amount of wealth from his father-in-law. God has just blessed his socks off, in spite of the fact that Jacob is a messy character. Jacob's not showing tremendous amounts of faith at this point. And then as he's leaving, what happened in the last chapter? He's been told by Laban, you may not come back here. Like, here's a stack of stones that we're establishing a covenant. You may not come back to Haran. You go back home. I don't want to see you again. And I'm not going to come across this line. You don't come across this line, which means that Jacob
got to go forward.
And who's waiting for him over there?
Esau and 400 men.
Esau. And so in the last chapter, this is going to be important for today because you see a change in Jacob. And it's rooted in the wrestling match that he had in the last chapter, right? So Jacob is like, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? I hear Esau is coming with 400 men. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? So he takes his family and he divides them up and puts them across the Jabbok River, and he stays behind, treating his family like human shields. Then he sends wave upon wave of generous gift, hundreds of animals to Esau, so that Esau is receiving them like, whoa, wow, what generosity, what generosity, what generosity. And now God comes to him and just boom, wrestles him,
Out of nowhere.
No intro, no conversation. They just wrestle. They wrestle all night until finally God is getting Jacob to the point where he's like, what is your name? When Jacob asks for a blessing, right? And Jacob finally admits, I'm Jacob, which is the first time that Jacob has come to terms
with he is who he says he is.
That's right. And what does Jacob mean? Remember?
Deceiver, supplanter.
Heel grabber, literally, but it's all that stuff. It's when you grab someone's heel, you trip them up, you're supplanting them, you're making them stumble. He's a schemer, right? Which also is not a great quality comparative to Satan even. And here you have God who's like, no, you were just honest with me. You've wrestled with me. You're not letting go of me. I'm changing your name. And he changes his name to Israel, gives him a new identity. And it's like God is saying to him, and he blows out his hip, right? Touches his hip socket, blows out his hip. And so now Jacob is with a limp, can't run away. All of that's going on. And at the end of this, what do we see here? He calls the place Peniel, which means I've seen the face of God and my life has been delivered. He's shocked, right? That this God didn't kill him, but in fact, he gave him a blessing and changed his name. Blown away that he's seen the face of God and lived. That's going to be a big deal for today. Any thoughts on that last chapter?
No, why doesn't he go by Israel right away?
He doesn't. Like chapter 33.
Goes right back to Jacob, yeah.
Yeah. I think that's because, and there will be places where he is referred to as Israel as you go forward.
I guess that's just a practical thing. Like he's not, on the morning he's about to meet Esau, he's probably not like, hey, wives, I had a quick name change last night. Now you refer to me as Israel and Israel only.
Yeah, but even beyond that, like you go down where it's going to be decades later and you still find him referred to as Jacob.
And the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Yeah, the New Testament. Scripture. That's right. Even down into the New Testament, he's still referred to as Jacob. And I think it's a good question, but I think there's a part of that is for our sake, where it's like, you're simultaneously sinner and saint, right? There is a very real reality that God has come to him and said, you are victorious, you are Israel, you are redeemed, your salvation and your identity and me is absolutely secure, and yet you're still walking around and the old identity. Like when I converted, it's not like everybody went, oh, wow.
Brand new sin.
I don't even recognize that guy. But there's a real sense in which my identity in terms of God is radically different. Brand new citizen, totally different person, and yet everybody still knows me as Sam.
Yeah, the justification's instantaneous. Sanctification takes time. Glorification will happen.
That's right. So Jacob here, man, and by the way, I think Jacob's worst chapter, and the Bible does this. It's kind of weird that it does this. I think Jacob's worst chapter is still to come, believe it or not. So like you see that with these characters where, and it's Genesis 15, when Abraham believes God and God credits it to him as righteousness, and Abraham has his what seems like the salvation moment. The next chapter, he's betraying his wife and falling into sin again. And you're like, what in the world? And his worst moments come after the conversion. Yeah. With Jacob, I think probably his worst moments, the next chapter, frankly, in Genesis 34, where he's really hard to like. Like I kind of want to enter into the story and shake him a little bit. But his worst moment comes after the conversion. And you see that. And it's like, why does God do that? It's like, if you're his people, you should be different. You should be great. You should be, superlative morality and everything else. And God is like, nope, it's after the conversion that Abraham stumbled. It's after the conversion that Jacob has his lowest moment. And what comfort is that to us?
Because our real experience is the stumbling. So we go to God's holy book and we're like, well, that doesn't describe me. Mm-hmm. Those people look nothing like my actual reality. We'll be like, well, this isn't for me then. Mm-hmm.
I mean, you look at the story of God's covenant with the Israelites. It's after they're delivered out of Egypt and God claims them as his own, that they do the worst stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, what in the world? Like, how do you reconcile that? And I think one of the things the Bible is, one, giving us comfort that, you don't just come to faith and then suddenly you've arrived and you have to be perfect. Otherwise, God's going to walk away from you. No, it gives you extreme examples in the scriptures that that's not the case. But then beyond that, it's reemphasizing a point that we've made a million times in these episodes, which is what? It is not about your faithfulness. It's all about his.
Yeah.
And he who began a good work in you will carry it out to completion in the day of Christ Jesus. Like, he doesn't give up on his work. You're a work in progress. He will bring you to glory. And so he's still going to be seen as Jacob. All right, so let's jump right into chapter 33. Verse 1, it says, and Jacob lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, Esau's coming. So he just finishes this wrestling match with God. Mm-hmm. Like, if you're going to be scared of one or the other, like wrestling and fighting against God, or here Esau. Comes Esau. Why do you suppose that he never showed real intense fear of this guy he's wrestling? Like, I won't let you go until you give me a blessing. But then he sees Esau, and you get a noticeably different.
I don't know.
My guess is, for the same reason we, who should show all kinds of reverence and fear for the Lord, can become way too comfortable. Like, if Jacob has been promised by God a million times, like, I'm with you, I'm with you, I'm with you, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and Jacob has had failure after failure after failure after failure, and God hasn't reduced him to a pile of ash, I think Jacob has learned to be comfortable knowing that even though he fears God and can reverence his power and everything else, that he's not a God to be, like, terrified of as one of his children. But whatever the reason, it's clear that Jacob has a great fear of being harmed by Esau.
And it's the distortion of sin. Like, Jesus had to come to us in the New Testament and say, like, don't be afraid of those who can kill the body, be afraid of those that can kill the soul. And like, he's saying that for a reason. Like, we are just naturally, in reality, because of our sin, like, well, this guy can hurt me right now. I'm not worried about eternity right now. I'm worried about this dude in my face.
Yeah, true. I think that's probably true. So Jacob looks, and behold, Esau's coming, 400 men with him. Why 400 men?
That's a lot.
It is a lot.
Seems like overkill.
I mean,
it's a show of force, right?
It's got to be a show of force. It's showing, like, look who I am, and he's bringing armed militia with him. He's coming not, to be like, hey, I wanted them to help decorate for your party. Like, I don't think that's right. But Jacob's certainly looking at this like, this is not good for me.
Yeah.
Like, this is going to be death. So he divided the children among Leah and Rachel and the two female servants. And he put the servants with their children in front. So he has a hierarchy here.
Yeah,
this is another thing that you find in the Old Testament. Every single one of the patriarchs has a hierarchy of favoritism and it's like polygamy. You find that in the patriarchs, and it always yields bad consequences. Does the Bible say not to play favorites with your children? Yes, later it says, favoritism is not a good thing. But here they're playing favorites, and the Bible is teaching you don't do this, because what happens when you play favorites?
Somebody gets hurt.
It always ends messy. Always. Like, don't do this, right? He divides them up. He put the servants with their children in front, which means what? If Esau's coming with 400 men,
they're
Bilhah and Zilpah and your children,
cannon fodder.
You're the most expendable, so we'll put you up front. Then Leah with her children, so Leah's got to be like, all right, well, maybe he likes me more than Zilpah and Bilhah, so I outrank them, I guess. With her six children, and then Rachel and Joseph last of all, which means what?
Joseph's the favorite.
Joseph's the favorite. So even from this point where you have newborn Joseph and all these other children, all the other, the sons of Leah. So here's Reuben and Simeon and Levi, and they're seeing that Jacob takes his precious Joseph and takes him to the back. And already the roots of jealousy would have been starting right here, because he's showing clear favoritism. Rachel's my favorite wife. Joseph is my favorite kid. Can you imagine being them? No. You imagine watching your dad be like, okay, well, you to the front. I'm taking your brother. And
it's tough, yeah.
This would be rough. This would be rough. So he himself, now this is where it changes.
This is good.
This is where it changes, because remember what happened in the last chapter?
You're expecting Jacob to be behind Joseph.
That's right. You're expecting the human shield thing to continue. Because in the last chapter, he sends his whole family across the Jabbok, and he stays behind, like maybe intending to run or figure things out, but he's treating his family like human shields. But now in verse 3, something changes. He himself went on before all of them, bowing himself to the ground 7 times until he came near to his brother. So now all of a sudden, you've got him dividing the family up into layers, but then he goes in front of all of them, which means I've set you up against each other, but now I'm walking past Rachel and Joseph saying, you're more important than my life. And then you're walking past Leah, which you imagine her perspective on this. And he walks past the 6 sons and Dinah and says, you're more important than my life. I'll lay down my life for you. And then past Bilhah and Zilpah and their 4 children. You're worth my life. And what's going on here? You find a Jacob who's willing to lay down his life for the security and blessing of others. That's wildly different. This is a brand new side of Jacob that we have never seen before, especially not willing to do that for Leah and the servants.
Yeah, it's his first time saying, this is my responsibility. I've caused all of this. You guys weren't even around when this feud began, so it's rightfully mine to carry.
But what does the Bible want you to see here? Why the sudden change? What's gone on here? Like what's
with
changed?
God.
He's wrestled with God. And he's always been trying to hide or overcome the fact that he's Jacob. And now he's had this wrestling match with God where he wants to hear out of the mouth of God, in spite of all of his failures and identity and everything else, I will not let you go till you give me a blessing. And then God not only gives him a blessing, but says, I'm changing your whole identity. Mm-hmm. It's not, you've wrestled with me. You've wrestled with man. You've prevailed. Like, I want you to know that you are victorious in my sight. You've got everything. I am the God of heaven and earth. I can blow your hip socket like that. Like, I am the one who is sovereign over all things. I'm the one who can give you the promises and keep the promises. I don't want you running. I want you trusting. And I'm going to change your whole identity. And the next moment is Jacob saying, I'll lay down my life for everyone else. How should that mirror the life of a Christian?
Yeah. I mean, it's a transformation that we go through for Jesus, and then something in our life makes us wrestle with God about something, whether it's sickness or what we see or just, feeling purposeless. And all of a sudden when the Holy Spirit does move, which it seems like he did, there is seen transformation in all of our lives.
That's right.
Maybe it's not perfection, but people should be able to say, like, oh no, something's different about you. Maybe not the whole facet yet.
How that works in the life of a Christian. And for us, the puzzle pieces come together a little bit more clearly because we see the heart of God even more incredibly expressed because Jesus goes to a cross for us. Mm-hmm. But what does it mean when God looks at you? I mean, you take all the most shameful things you've ever done, Will. I take all the most shameful, my addictions, the way that I've mistreated people, like the things I look back in my past and I'm like, I just can't even believe that. Like I still, even on this side of Christianity, like there's things that I look back at and I'm like, I can't even believe I was like that. Like I'm just gross. Even things as a Christian. And then you wrestle with the fact that God has looked at you and all of your shame and all of your lowest moments when you think, I absolutely do not deserve anything. Like who would want someone like this?
Yeah.
And God comes and wrestles with you in those low moments when you're like, I have nowhere else to go, and you're grab and hold, and he blesses you, not just in a wrestling match, but he goes to a cross and is willing to die for you, right? And he says, now I'm giving you a brand new identity. I've taken all your sin away. I've taken all your shame away. I've taken everything that is bad, that's heaped upon you. Now it's all on me. You're absolutely free. Go and live and freedom. And now you walk away having been treated like that. How does it change you? If God is willing to lay down his life for you, as messy as you are, how does it call you to be toward others?
Same way.
Yeah. We forgive because he forgave. We love because he loved us. We show mercy when it feels totally undeserved because he showed mercy when it was totally undeserved. And I think there's some element where Jacob has this wrestling match with God, knows that he's totally undeserving, knows that he's totally outgunned, and yet God shows him kindness, even in the face of Jacob being a scoundrel all these years.
Yeah.
And that makes Jacob be like, okay, maybe I should step out in front of Leah. Maybe I should be the one who lays down my life because God has shown undeserved kindness to me. Now I'm going to show undeserved, maybe in his eyes, kindness to them. It's transformative. Like you see this moment here where you're like, oh, Jacob has changed, finally, right? Like there's something about his life that he understands, and he's showing humility here where like it says, he went on before him, bowing himself to the ground 7 times. Like, why? What is that about? So I sent you earlier, because I knew this question was going to come up. So I did a deep dive into historical documents. And this is a thing, like bowing down 7, doing anything 7 times in the ancient Near East was a big deal. So when they go around Jericho 7 times, that's not just a biblical thing. Like it was understood that 7 was the idea of utter submission. So when you walked around Jericho 7 times, it was like, this is utterly belonging to the Lord. The Hittites had something called the Treaty of Supalulima. Oh, yep, whatever.
That one.
Supalulima. You want to try that? Anyway. But in it says, I, your servant, fall at the feet, my king, my Lord, 7 times and 7 times. And the Akkadian Suila prayers, it says it's the prayer of lifted hands, and it says 7 times I bow, 7 times I kneel. And the Mari letters, it's 18th century BC, same time, right? Same region. I fall at the feet of my Lord repeatedly. The Amarna letters, I fall at the feet of my king, my Lord, 7 times and 7 times. And so you see this again and again and again, that the sign of utter submission, like I have no right to stand before you. You are the one in charge. I have no ability to compete with you because you are the one who is superior here. That's what this means. So it's absolutely utter submission to Esau from the get-go. Why?
I mean, just hoping for some grace.
Yeah.
That he won't be killed in this moment.
That's right. But what do we know about Esau? We talked about this last time. He went from being, the son of Isaac and Rebekah that didn't get the blessing, right? But now who is he?
He's created his own fortune.
He's created his own fortune. He has conquered an entire region. He's got a kingdom and a throne on Mount Seir, which means, by the way, shaggy. So it's like even his mountain can mean like hairy or shaggy. So even the mountain's
it's on brand.
Yeah, kind of right, because he's a hairy guy. So he has made something of himself. He's got an army of 400 guys coming at him, and Jacob is trying to disarm everything. Like, oh, I took your fortune away? Well, we handled that last chapter. Remember when I sent you the hundreds and hundreds of animals to you? Like, I'm restoring that to you. And now, and just in case you're worried that I'm, because the older shall serve the younger and all that stuff. Like, if you're worried that I'm going to use any authority or blessing from God to reign over you and rule cruelly and to throw you into the dirt, let's get that settled right now. I have no interest in that. Bowing 7 times, you are utterly the one who is superior in this relationship. And so he's like, let me try to disarm any insecurities that Esau might have, any threat that he might perceive that I pose. Let's get rid of it right now. And then verse 4, the surprising thing happens, which the Bible again and again does to us, right? Remember when Abraham goes in and he mistreats Abimelech at Gerar, because why? He assumed that because they're unbelievers, they're going to be utterly wicked and they're going to try to kill him.
Yeah.
And then you find that same story later on again, where it's like, oh, because you're Isaac, because you're, unbelievers, I assumed you were going to do wicked. And here, Esau hates God. So you're assuming what?
He's going to do evil.
He's going to do evil. And by the way, he said he was going to kill. I mean, that's not great. 20 years ago, but still. But Esau ran to meet him and embraced him and fell on his neck and kissed him, and they wept.
Yeah,
Like, what? So how does this happen? I mean, this is the same reaction. Remember when Jacob takes his way long journey and he goes to the well and he meets his family member there, Rachel at the well. What does he do? He immediately kisses her on the cheek or whatever, and then just sobs because it's like, oh, I'm so glad to be in the presence of my family. Now it's like Esau is doing this. Like, what happened? How did he forgive his brother? Like, what's going on here?
A lot of therapy and
a lot of therapy on Mount Seir. What do you think is going on? Because this is one the Bible doesn't give us answers to what's going on. Like, is this sincere from Esau? I mean, he's weeping, so it's like maybe he wins an Academy Award.
Yeah, the whole way through, Esau seems very sincere in this chapter.
Doesn't he? Like, right? Why is he bringing 400 men? I mean, there's one of two answers, right?
Just likes to travel with a
huge entourage. Maybe that's it. Like, I'm going and I'm a really important figure. I don't want to risk assassination, so here's my entourage. I don't want any neighboring people to get any ideas to try to take me out. I don't think so, but maybe. Another one of the ideas is he's doing this because he wants Jacob to see that in spite of the fact that you've taken everything from me, you stole the blessing, you took the birthright, I've made it. So I'm coming with a show of force to show you, how are you doing? Where's your army? Look at my army. Yeah. Who's made it now? So it's like maybe he's doing the nana boo boo. Like look at me. I'm better than you, and you can take your God's blessing, and we'll see who's bigger and better and badder. But I think he was coming on a mission where I think Esau was not sure how he was going to meet Jacob.
Be prepared for whatever.
I think that murderous heart was still there, and then on the way, I think Jacob's send all these things. He's going to see the children. He's going to see the animals. He's going to see the kindness. He's going to see the tributes. Jacob comes bowing, and all of those things, all that murderous rage, which was all sourced by what? Envy.
Yeah.
Like, how dare you take what I want? Now Jacob's like, I'll restore it all. You now, as the firstborn, I give honor to you. You as the one who lost out on the birthright and the blessing and now lost your home and you're living out in the Edomite territory, I'm going to give you all the honor. I'm going to bow to you 7 times. Like, you can't honor somebody more than that. And I think maybe that it was in the journey that Esau's like, okay, all of that insecurity, because remember, this whole family is just fueled by insecurity, one to the next. He satiates Esau's insecurity. And I think at this moment, Esau's like, okay, he's changed. I'll receive him. He's not a threat to me.
Could be.
What are your thoughts? Where would you land?
I don't know. I have a hard time with Esau because it is hard to tell what he is. It's hard to hold this, like, he's moral and good, but he also hates God. Mm-hmm. So it's really hard for us on this earth to handle those kinds of people, because we're like, man, but God, he's good.
Yeah.
Like, this is confusing, God. Like, why are you kicking Esau out? Like, he's the one who's doing good. And so it's hard because we don't really like grace when it comes down to it. We really want people to, like, achieve based off their morals. Like, oh, he's good, God, accept him. This guy stinks, kick him to the curb. So when it's the opposite, and we're like, God actually shows grace and mercy and the thing that we all crave as people, and he gives it to other people, we're like, that's not how this should work.
That's right.
And so I'm real confused about Esau all the time.
You look at the people who get most upset at these stories. What are they upset about?
It's not fair.
This is not, God uses people like this. I want nothing to do with this story. I'm so angry that Jacob treats his wives this way. I'm so angry that the wives are treating each other like that. I really can't stand Leah. I hate Sarah because of the way she treats Hagar. I hate, and we look at the morality of the players in the book of Genesis and we go, I don't like it. I don't want to be a part of this. Like, God is unjust or whatever. And they start hurling accusations at God because he works with immoral people. And it's like, okay, you've just revealed that you really don't like grace.
Yeah.
Because guess what? Next to God, you are absolutely unworthy, utterly sinful. You deserve the wrath to pour upon you in full measure. And God looks at you and says, I'll work with you. I'm coming for you. I'm going to forgive you and I'm going to clean you up. And over the long course of your life, as messy as you are, as evil as you can be, as nasty as you can be toward others, you're a work in progress, and I'm going to lead you into glory. I'm going to forgive you, and my faithfulness is upon you. and like it's so hard to read these stories, and especially when you see someone like Esau, where I guarantee you the Bible, if it wanted to go deep down into Esau's deep, dark, hidden stuff, like you would find that he's a messy, awful person apart from hating God. But the Bible doesn't give you that, and it doesn't give you that on purpose, because what we want to say is Esau deserves it. Esau's the one who obeyed the dad. Esau's the one who did all this stuff. Esau's the one who's forgiving Jacob. Esau's the one who's just kind of doing his thing. Jacob's the one scheming. And you want to say, okay, God, you should take Esau because he's seemingly good, and you should condemn Jacob because, gosh, I can't stand this guy.
Yeah.
And that's not the way it works, and it makes us so uncomfortable. And as Christians, so often in these stories, we try to apologize for it and be like, well, no, actually, Jacob is better than Esau because probably Esau, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, nope, God is intentionally presenting this story to tell you that it is not about which of these two is better in comparison to the other. Because in comparison to God, they're both dust.
Yeah, because that's the thing we don't do. Like, our comparative moralism is always like the worst human we can think of. I mean, it's always Hitler for all of us. We're always like, well, I'm better than Hitler. No, the actual standard is God. And with that, God's not finding any moral people on this planet.
That's right. I remember seeing an illustration like this, and I may have mentioned this before, but if you were like, if this was the scale of righteousness, okay, and up here's God, who's infinitely righteous. So like any place I put it, he's higher because it's infinite. Like his righteousness is never ending, right? It's infinite in measure. And down here at the bottom is you and your sin, and you're here. Like in the scale of comparison, God, infinite, never ending, way up here. Here's you, the sinner. Where's Hitler?
With me.
He's this much below you, right? I'll say you're better than Hitler. Yeah. And next to God, who's infinite, like
vastness is still on the other side.
Yeah, it's like going up a story in comparison to the moon. Like it doesn't matter. Yeah. So everybody's in need of radical grace because it's not each other we're compared against; it's God. And God chooses to show mercy to really messy people in the story if they come to him. And so what is the standard here? Jacob's messy. Oh my goodness, he's messy. And yet he wants the blessing of God, chases after it, messily. Esau despises it. That's the difference.
Yeah.
Really uncomfortable, but that's the gospel.
Yes.
Right? Comparatively, someone who is far worse than me could receive grace, and if I reject Jesus and walk away from God, thumb my nose at him and say I'm doing it on my own, God's favor and God's promise of an inheritance is on them, not me. That's the measure of the gospel. It's him that you need.
Yeah, what's a crazy C.S. Lewis quote you always hit me with? That the gates of hell are locked from the inside.
That's right.
That's just mind-numbing to me.
True. But I mean, you ask the question. I mean, it's commonsensical. Like if you spent your whole life like Esau saying, I want nothing to do with God, I want nothing to do with God, I want nothing to do with God, what makes you think all of a sudden you're going to die and be like, oh, I can't wait to spend eternity with God? Like, no. And by the way, the source of everything good is God. So if you're set yourself apart from him when you die and common grace is gone, you're left without anything good. It's a terrifying thought. Like, so anyway, grabbing hold of Jesus is the answer. So anyway, so when Esau lifted up his eyes and saw the women and children, he said, who are these with you? And Jacob said, oh, the children whom God, so here you have Jacob who's coming out. Notice what he's saying. Like Esau's been the one who's like, I want nothing to do with your God. I want nothing to do with your God. Jacob's faithful here. He says, the children whom God has graciously given your servant. So he's paying homage here, saying, I'm your servant, right? But God has graciously given them to me. Like God has blessed me richly. So he doesn't walk away from the fact that God is the one who's given him everything, right? And what's Esau's response? We're not even engaging that conversation.
I like that they're awkward right now. I like that after a couple decades of murderous threats, Esau's like, oh,
tell me about the kids.
Who are those behind you? Like obviously my wife and kids.
Yep. So then the servants drew near, they and their children, and they bowed down. Likewise, Leah and her children drew near, and they bowed down. And last, Joseph and Rachel drew near, and they bowed down. And Esau said, what do you mean by all this company that I met. In other words, why'd you send all this stuff to me? Like the waves of gifts and everybody telling me all these things as me and my army were marching. And Jacob said, I did it to find favor. Now that word there, favor is the Hebrew word is grace, which means unmerited favor. Like I don't deserve it. And he says to find unmerited favor in the sight of my Lord. Now, what does that sound like? We're coming in for a judgment. I've wronged you. I deserve your wrath.
Please give me the thing I don't deserve.
Yeah. I recognize I need unmerited favor in your sight. But Esau says, I have enough, my brother. Like, are you kidding me? You know how wealthy I am?
Esau's cool. He's
right?
like, I don't want it.
That's right. I have enough. Keep what you have for yourself. Now, there's a hidden thing in this that if you go back to ancient culture, to accept gifts is to accept reconciliation. So there's part of this where some commentaries are like, no, I'm good. You keep, I don't want to be indebted to you at all. I
don't want to be beholden to anything.
That's right. You keep your stuff. I have enough, my brother, which means I've done well. God's been good to me too, without saying God, I've got enough. Keep what you have for yourself. And Jacob said, no, please. If I have found unmerited favor, grace in your sight, accept this present. There's that word from a couple episodes ago, offering from my hand. For I have seen your face, which is like seeing the face of God, and you've accepted me. Now let's pause there for a moment, because like, what? How do you read that? When you read that, like, how does your brain process what you just read? What is he saying?
I think he's saying you hold my life and death in your hands right now, like God does.
Mm-hmm. But remember, what's the place he just named? Peniel.
Face of God.
Why did he name it that?
Because he wrestled with God. He saw the face of God.
And
lived.
That's it. So now he's coming to Esau, who seems to be showing him mercy. And he's not saying, Esau, you're like God. That's not what he's saying here. What he's saying is, I'm seeing your face, and that's like seeing the face of God that I just did in this last chapter, where I wrestled with somebody who could have utterly destroyed me, but out of sheer kindness accepted me and did not do that. So please accept this offering, show grace upon me in your sight, because seeing you again is like seeing the face of God, and you've accepted me. So he says, please accept my blessing. And you're like, whoa, don't miss that. What's going on there?
It's almost a return.
So God, what happened? Like, if you go back to the original part where this family fell apart, when Jacob stole the blessing, right? He comes in and he deceives the father. He steals the blessing. He runs away. Esau's furious, wants to kill him. Esau really, in a sense, got all the blessing he wanted. He's got power. He's got money. He's got everything. All the stuff that he was worried that he was going to miss out on, he's got. He's no longer upset. He doesn't care about God. He doesn't care about the spiritual blessing. He's got what he wants. He's got wealth and kingdom. But now you have Jacob. The one thing that he doesn't have is the respect of his brother. And right? Like, you stole my blessing.
Yeah.
That's still between them. And now what has Jacob done? That blessing that Esau was, all the wealth and the flocks and everything else. Well, Jacob's already loaded him up with all this stuff. And now Jacob comes and he's laying himself down, in a sense, as an offering to Esau, like bowing before him again and again. And then he says, please accept my blessing, which is restoring everything that he took incorrectly, right? I stole your blessing from God. So now please accept the blessing that God has given to me, right? Because he's already said that, right? God has graciously given me all these things. Now please accept my blessing that is brought to you, because God has dealt graciously with me and because I have enough. And thus he urged him, and finally Esau took it, which is a way of saying, we're reconciled. I'll receive a gift from you. But let's remember, because this whole thing is kind of playing out a twisted picture of the gospel, right?
Yeah.
If you go back, because he's saying, you're encountering the Lord, Esau, and it's like, okay, well, he's saying that in a weird way, but let's go back and play this out. If you go back to the beginning, we already talked about this. When he deceived his father into getting the blessing, right? The line of salvation, what is it? To get the father's blessing, I have to take on the image of the firstborn son, which means, the fur and all that stuff. And so he tricks the father's senses. His father's blind, but he tricks his sense of smell, his sense of taste, his sense of touch. And Isaac ignores the sense of hearing. And then he receives the father's blessing by taking on the image of the firstborn. That's a picture of the gospel. It's what we have to do, except the image of the firstborn is given to us in the gospel. Jesus goes to a cross, clothes us in his righteousness. And now on the back side of this, you have Jacob, who has received all the blessing of God, who's received a new identity, everything else, but he's now done this at the expense, in some sense, of Esau. And so now God is blessing Jacob's socks off in order to restore what was taken from Esau unjustly. Because Jacob lied. Yep. And this wasn't the way it should have gone if Jacob and Rebekah had been honest. But now God is taking somebody who is his enemy. Hear this, because it's kind of wild. Esau hates him. And God spent 20 years taking his chosen son, Jacob, putting him in a distant land, having to go through all kinds of unjust circumstances to give him a wealth that then God will use to transfer to somebody who hates him to restore him.
Yes.
That's wild to me.
Yeah.
Like, think about how God does that with Jesus. I mean, Jesus, who's rightfully entitled to all things and blesses us with it. Or God comes and richly blesses his people. And then what does he call on us to use our blessings to do? To go and to bless even those who hate him. What? So but it's all God's sovereignty here. It's not Jacob's being driven probably by fear of please don't kill me. But yet God, the sovereign author, is steering all of history to even bless those who hate him. That's wild to me, how good he is. What do you think of that?
Yeah, it is an interesting reversal of the whole thing. Because this is one of those chapters that, there's a lot of detail in this and don't see a lot of movement.
Mm-hmm. It's true. All right, so verse 12, so Esau's on board, and he says, let us journey on our way, and I will go ahead of you. Because remember, Jacob's flocks are even bigger, right?
Stuff.
He's got lots of stuff and all of his possessions that he's stored up. Esau's got some pretty decent-sized flocks now, too, but Jacob said to him, my Lord knows that the children are frail and that the nursing flocks and herds are a care to me. If they're driven hard for one day, all the flocks will die. So, let my Lord pass on ahead of his servant. I'll lead on slowly at the pace of the livestock that are ahead of me and at the pace of the children until I come to my Lord in Seir. So, remember, this is the mountain, Mount Seir, that's in the land of Edom on the other side of the Dead Sea. It's not where God has called him to return. God called him to return back, remember, to where he had the dream. This is Bethel, which he calls the house of God, where the ladder was up to heaven. And Esau's like, you come on back to Seir. And he's like, oh, yep, I'll see you there. I'm on my way.
I like your deceptive character tone. When you read Jacob being deceptive, you do it in a different way. And I like it.
How does that go?
Whenever audio listeners can notice that. But just know it's good.
Yeah,
we like it. Yeah, it's a little bit like,
I'll come to Seir. All right. So Esau said, well, let me leave with you some of the people who are with me. Now, why? Okay, this is one of those where it's like, okay, we're reading into the motives. What's going on here?
There's a little accountability here. Like, Esau's not fully trusting Jacob, I think, in this moment.
But why is he insisting on him coming back?
I don't know.
Like, this is the question. These are the...
Maybe he just wants to be friends forever.
This is where the Bible allows your mind to wander, and it's like, yeah, well, maybe... Is he like, no, I really want to have a relationship with you, so I'm going to send armed men to make you come have friendship.
I think he's a good brother.
No way. See, this is where I'm like... He doesn't trust him. I think Esau still at some level in him, even though he's been nice and there's conflicted insides on this guy, I think he wants to rule over his brother. So I want you in my territory. I'll leave some guys here to make sure you come along. Maybe. The Bible doesn't say, but that's just where I go here. I think everybody's insecure. Everybody needs to be the boss of one another and prove themselves superior over to everybody. Jacob's the first one who's like, nope, all yours, whatever. But even now he's like, yep, okay, you go. I'll be right behind you.
Yeah.
So even though you see the reconciliation of the accepted gift and the hugging and the weeping, they're not restored. Forgiven, animosity put away, yes. Restored, no. But he said, what need is there? Let me find favor in the sight of my Lord. Like, why do you need to leave anybody here with me? Like, oh, let me prove myself to you. Let me find unmerited favor in the sight of my Lord. He's reminding him, like, hey, you know what grace is, right? Like, you need to let me prove myself to you. So Esau returned that day on his way to Seir, but Jacob journeyed to Succoth, which is like,
Not Seir.
not that way, and built himself a house and made booths for his livestock. Therefore, the name of the place is called Succoth, which is booths, right? Tabernacles,
original.
like little tents. Right?
Creative.
Yeah. There's a couple of places in the Bible named this because it's where they built tents. And so verse 18, coming in for a landing, and this is something that's like the Bible doesn't send up flares. It doesn't say, hey, look at this. Jacob is already blowing it. But he's already blowing it. Where did God tell Jacob to come back to? We just talked about it. It's where the ladder was, the house of God, Bethel. You come back here. This is the place that I'm asking you to return to. So Jacob not only doesn't go to Seir, which is where Esau's calling him to, he doesn't go back to Bethel, which is not great. It's not going to have good implications in the next chapter. Like Jacob's disobedience to God is going to land him in a really, 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 really uncomfortable chapter in the next one. I think it's the worst moment of his life, at least in terms of things he can control. And it's ugly what happens in the next chapter. But it says, Jacob came safely to the city of Shechem, which is in the land of Canaan. So this is way further up to the north from where Bethel is. It's still in the land of Canaan, on his way from Paddan Aram, and he camped before the city. And it's like, why does he not want to go back to Bethel? Why does he not want to go back to his parents' place? What is he doing? He goes to Shechem because he wants to strike out on his own. He wants his independence. He wants his freedom. He wants to do things his way, I guess. But he kind of shirks off what God's expectation was for him and settles in Shechem, which is not a great place, not godly people at all. And from the sons of Hamor, which that word literally, like the name means donkey. So it's like a derogatory name already. And this guy is not great. Shechem's father. So Hamor is king. Shechem is the prince, right? And the city is named after Shechem.
There's some favoritism.
He bought for 100 pieces of money the piece of land on which he had pitched his tent. Now, wait a minute. He bought the land, which means what? This isn't sojourning.
Yeah, he's got some cash, too.
Yeah, I'm home. Yeah, God.
Laying down roots.
If you want to come to me, you come on up here. I'm not going down there to where you called me to return. And then verse 20, which is where this chapter ends, it says, there he erected an altar and called it El Elohe Israel, which means God, right? El is always God in Semitic languages. Elohe Israel, which means the God of Israel. So this is where Jacob now, for the first time, you see him saying, I'm embracing that identity. Like I'm gonna build an altar here, and I'm gonna call it God, the God of Israel.
Still conflicted.
And yet,
not where he should be.
He's doing it in a place of disobedience. And it's like, gosh, this is Jacob. He is such a mixed bag. And that's meant to be intentional for us. Because God, again, doesn't go, this is like incident 5,492. Like, I'm so done with you. Like, God still honors this covenant that he has. The next chapter, you're going to see the most shameful part of Jacob's life in my book. And God is not going to be even consulted. Like he's just no part of it. And Jacob is playing like, okay, yeah, I'll throw you bones and I'll name my altar and I'll do all that stuff. But my heart is not in honoring you or following you with obedience. And he's going to come out of this with some real pain. And that's how Jacob is slowly transformed over his life. It's one instance of painful consequences after the next. And by the end of it, he's a pretty incredible man. All right. And so I'd say if we're looking at this chapter and what to take away from it, it's you have a new identity. And that identity allows you to go out and to lay your life down to lay it down for the sake of those around you, to lay your life down for your family, for your kids, for your city, for your countrymen, for your world. Like if God has given you a new identity and he said, you have an eternal inheritance that's secure. You are utterly safe in my sight. My faithfulness has washed away all of your shameful past. Your name is no longer Jacob. You have a new identity in me. Now you are free to go do big things in the name of the Lord. Like go out and do big things. We, like Jacob, can then put everything else behind us and go out and bow down and give the wealth that God has given us, even to our enemies, for the sake that they might see the goodness of God. Like that's kind of what's going on in this chapter.
Yeah.
That God's weaving this through with an unfaithful, kooky scoundrel like Jacob. How much more with those who know Christ and have the Spirit working in us. Amen?
Amen.
All right, so we're going to leave it there. That's Genesis chapter 33. Next week, join us. We're going to find out why it's a really bad idea for Jacob to settle in Shechem. And brace yourself. Next week's not going to be one for kids, probably. Read it in advance. And it's going to be really hard to like Jacob next week. But God's love, unshakable. Pretty wild. All right, so thanks for watching. God bless.